Hello guys, I am Ghazal Laluha, PhD student in computer science at Macquarie University. As you know, Python programming language is a fundamental basis of computer science. In this educational series, I intend to teach you basic programming in Python language. I hope you enjoy this tutorial and that I can give you good information about one of the most powerful programming languages. Probably many of you have started learning this language with a rough understanding of the power, validity, and uses of the Python programming language. You all know that Python has been the most popular programming language along with JavaScript and Java for years. Many companies use Python programming language for their businesses. This programming language has various uses in the fields of web design, complex scientific calculations, statistical cases, graphic uses, quantitative, qualitative, analytical uses, solving optimization problems. Probably all of you are aware of the main use of this language, which is the main reason for its popularity and widespread use in the industry. This application is nothing but application in data science, computer science, data analysis, and machine learning. The reason for all these uses is the unique features of this language that have made Python so powerful. While working with Python, you will touch these features and become a fan of Python. In order to create initial interest in learning, we introduce some of these features briefly and usefully. For example, you can see that Python is easy to learn, Python is easy to use, Python is expressive language, Python is interpreted language. We will get to know about these soon. Python is cross-platform language, Python is free and open source, Python is object-oriented language. We will learn these features soon. Python is extensible. Python is a very powerful programming language and has many useful libraries. You will figure this out during the learning process. We will use these Python's libraries during this course. You can build a graphic user interface, which is called GUI with Python. We will explain it more in upcoming lectures. Python is integrated. You can see a history of Python here. Let's enter the world of Python programming language. Oh, we want this ideal. Search the word Python in Google, enter the official website. You can gather some information in the website. You can see the documents, search among them, and use them. Enter the down segment and choose the suitable option for your system. Consider that you are working with Windows, Mac, or any other operating systems. Finally, download the best option. Select the last version. You can also find some information about that here in the website. Install the Python. The process is very easy and fast. There is nothing very special. Enter the IDLE and you will face with such environment. It gives you some information about the Python's version which you have installed. For example, this is a Python version 3.11.9. There is also some information about your system here. If you want to have the white color, you can choose it from the options header. You can also change the size. For example, you can put it on 14 in this window and in the highlight header. There are some different modes for IDLE. If you choose classic, you will see the changes. You can also see the difference by choosing the dark mode. This is classic. It is dark. And the new mode will also be a different mode. You can see the differences. If you like a bright screen, you can choose one of the two classic and new modes. If too much brightness is annoying for you, you can choose the dark mode. You can also change the fonts and you can apply any changes if you want. At this moment, I do not change any settings. Our Python shell is now ready to use. We want to do programming in the Python. You want to learn programming. The first step is to learn to think like a computer scientist. It means like someone who understands the computer language and can communicate with the computer. This is a very important point. It needs familiarity with other sciences like mathematics. A mathematician also uses a formal language to transform his purpose. For instance, there are specific rules and symbols for showing series, differential, integral equations, and relationships in math. There is also a programming language. We should see the issue like an engineer, break a complicated and large system into smaller ones, and on the other hand, create large systems by putting small parts together. We should have some hypotheses while programming and implement them, then test them. In addition to this, the most important ability that a computer scientist has to achieve is problem solving. You will also gain it while passing these courses. Problem solving means the ability of formulate problems, think about their solutions creatively, and finally state a specific solution. It means that you have a problem, you formulate it, you think about the possible solutions well, and finally choose the optimum one. Indeed, learning and practicing programming is a wonderful opportunity for learning and practicing problem solving skills. Now let's see what is a program. Now we are going to do programming in Python. A program is actually a sequence of instructions that specify how to perform a calculation. This calculation can be a mathematical problem or searching for text inside a document or a graphic problem such as image processing. Each instruction has its own component, but a series of components are common in almost all instructions, like input. You enter the data through keyboard, file, or network. One other component is output. Our problem will also have an output. Anyway, you solve the problem in order to find an output. This output will be shown on the monitor or saved in a file sent via network. In fact, your instructor receives an input and shows an output. Another component is math. There is a mathematics involved that can be very simple or very complex. Usually you have to divide the problem into a series of mathematically based operations. Another component is conditional execution. You check a series of specific conditions and run the suitable codes based on these conditions. This is a very important key point in the program. Another component is repetition. Usually in programming, you do a series of repeated operations with a series of little changes. It can be said that any program, no matter how complex, is made of instructions consisting of these components. These are the base operations. In this way, programming can be viewed as breaking a large and complex task into a series of subsets. You break a large task into small and smaller subtasks, and you make these subtasks simple enough to be done by these basic instructions and components. Let's come back to the Python. This is the Python environment which we installed. We can use different IDEs. What are IDEs? IDEs are environments which you write code in them. In fact, they are your text editors. IDE is the abbreviation of Integrated Development Environment. This is the environment for your developing and programming. Python put this IDE when we installed it. Python gives you a simple IDE which is practical while simplicity, and it is good enough that we called it IDLE. There are different IDEs which you can use, like Spider. We are going to try to work with some of them in order to become familiar with their strengths. However, for now, we start with IDLE. This sign of three red characters is showing that the Python shell is ready for programming. For example, we write 5 plus 5. When we write the code, we should press enter. This means at the end of phrase and running the program. Indeed, this ID says to the interpreter that run your program. We can simply use it as a calculator. We can put a space inside the phrase inside the statement and see what happens. For example, consider 5 space plus sign and again 5. You can see that the output will not change. 5 plus sign and after plus sign just consider one space. You can see that there will be no change here. Or we can try any other possible options and wait for the results. For example, 5 multiplying 4, 5 multiplying 4, 5 multiplying 4, or for example, A divided to 4. Usually while learning the programming languages, the first step is printing a hello world. Hello world with a double quotation. Hello world with single quotation. And this time use the keyword print. While working with strings, you can use a single quotation or double quotation. There is no difference. Both of them does the same operation and has the same effect. At the beginning of learning, I have to explain in details. In the following sections, we will speed up. Print shows you something in the output. These quotation marks specify the beginning and the end of the phrase going to be printed and they will not be printed in the output. You can try the print instruction without quotation mark. You see an error. For another example, if you put two single quotation in the print instructions, you will get an error. For example, if we have print hello world, there would be error. And using two single quotation also lead to error. For another example, if you put to say, okay, I told you, you can try different states here. For example, if you create a space, there will be no problem. For example, printing hello world, there is no problem. Parentheses in front of the word print shows that a print is a function. In the following sections, we will talk about functions in detail. In the previous version of Python, I mean Python 2, print was not a function, but in Python 3, print becomes a function and the phrases which are going to be printed should be in the parentheses. There are kinds of operations. One of them are computational operations, which do operations like sum, subtract, multiply, and division. You can try different examples and different states. You can check these operations with distance or without distance and I mean space, with space or without space, and see the output. Pay attention to the output of division operation. The result is shown in float format. In the following sections, we will talk about this. In Python, if we use a two star sign, which is multiplication operation consecutively, we will have the power operation. Of course, in the following sections, we will talk about the priorities in computations too. There should not be any space between two star sign. If there is space, we will get error. For example, if we have 3 and the two star sign together without any space between them, and then 2. You can see that we have the output, which is the result of 3 in power 2. But if we consider a space between two star sign, there will be error. Another concept in Python is values and types. A value is one of the basic things that a program works with it, like a letter, a number, or a phrase. These values belong to different types. For example, the type of number 8 is integer, or the type of 2.0 is point number or float. Number 8, 2.0, this is float. For example, hello world. The type of the phrase hello world is a string. We can specify the type of value in Python. In Python, type is function too. This type. For example, it shows the class of integer if the input is number 8. This class is showing the category. For example, 8 is from the integer category. Indeed, type is a classification of values. You can try different states. If you write wrongly, you will not have a color change. If you type in this way, there is no color change and there will be error. You can change every type to a string by putting the value in the quotation mark. For example, you can see that the type of single quotation, number 8, single quotation and closing parentheses, this is a string. The type of this phrase is a string. Do not use commas to separate the digits of large numbers in Python. In fact, Python considers, for example, this 5, this is 5 million, but if you use commas as separator, you can see that the Python considers this 5 million as a sequence of integers separated from each other by commas. In the following sections, we will talk about this. Programming languages are formal, not natural. It means that they have some severe rules which should be followed. Natural languages are those whom are spoken by people, while not built by people, but created and evolved through a passing time. However, math language, chemistry language, or computer language are formal languages created by peoples in order to transform scientific concepts. For this reason, they have severe rules which, as you see in the examples, not following these rules leads to errors. As you can see, when you write a program, you receive some errors. You should try to fix these errors. This task is called debugging. Bugs are programmers' errors, and the process of finding these errors is called debugging. The debugging process can be a troublesome operation and make us suffer. The main reason it bothers us is that we treat computers as if we were dealing with a human. A good approach is to look at the computer as an employee. Suppose that you are employer and the computer is your employee. An employee with extraordinary abilities such as speed, accuracy, and so on, and it has some obvious weaknesses. For example, it cannot read your mind. For more detailed example, if in your mind there were a parenthesis in front of print, a computer does not know it. For example, if you type print 3, you will have errors. As another example, it can't understand the big picture you want. You have to show it step by step. So look at the computer like this. Find ways to capitalize on its strengths and mitigate its weaknesses. This debugging operation can be a tedious task, but the skill is very valuable. It is also useful for many activities beyond programming. Debugging cannot be explained in general in one section. Rather, it should be faced during the training of different parts. And we provide you with different training during the training course. We have mentioned some things so far. You have to explore different states yourself to achieve enough nobility and mastery. In order to achieve sufficient mastery, you have to try different situations, and while facing different syntax errors, you will become fully aware of the subject. The next discussion is the variables. One of the main parts of programming is working with variables and understanding them. First, we need to talk about assignment statements that use the equality operator. For example, what is assignment statement? For example, here, this statement creates a new variable MSG and assigns the value hello to it with string type. This equal sign is different from the equal sign in mathematics. Here is the role of assignment. In fact, the expression on the right side of the equal sign is assigned to the expression on the left side of the equal sign. There are various examples. This is how to make a variable. You can also call this variable. Programmers usually use meaningful names for variable. For example, here because we want to have a message, use MSG. Variable names can be as long as desired or consist of numbers and letters. For example, we can have MSG2 is how are you doing? But the variable name should not start with numbers. For example, we can't have 2 MSG is equal to very good. Variable names must start with letters, but numbers can be used inside the name. In the same way, you can use the underscore character in the variable names. For example, we can have first name as or my age 31. Not necessarily all the values of the variables should be strings. You can use different data types. For example, integer here. Other characters cannot be used in variable names. Underscore is very useful for variable names that are two parts or more. Although it is possible to use uppercase letters in the selection of variable names, it is customary in Python programming to use lowercase letters for variable names. You don't have to remember these keywords. Keywords, I means print, about keywords I want to talk. These are keywords in Python, print, type. You don't have to remember these keywords as they change color as soon as you use them. You can see examples of keywords here. For example, print, type, help, here. These are some examples. Two other important things in programming are expression and statements. Expression is a combination of values, variables, and operators. Each value is known as an expression by itself. For example, if you have, for example, A is equal to 25, or for example, A2 is equal to 92, for example. This 92 is an expression uh, because it is a value. For example, because above we defined A equal to 25, when we type A here, after pressing enter, the interpreter will show us the value of A, which is 25. A statement is a code unit that has an effect. For example, creating a variable by displaying a value. So far, we have reviewed the basic concepts. This environment in which we wrote the code is called interacting mode. When the codes are long, interacting mode cannot be used. For long codes, we should use script mode. In this way, click on File, and then New File, and do the programming here. For example, name غزل age 31, nationality Iranian, university Macquarie University. For example, country of living, Australia. You can have something like this. After running, we see the output in Python shell. For example, you can say name. Here we can say name. Oh, no. We didn't have a, let me see. Let me explain to you. The main step in programming in script mode is to save the program. We didn't have the output because we didn't save it. For example, if we save it in the desktop, Python programs are usually saved with the .py extension. The difference between interacting and a script environment is that when we write commands in interactive, the result is displayed. But in the script environment, after saving and running the program, we do not see the output. Rather, the address of the program and the name of the program are displayed to us. Why? Because the first line of command hasn't any visible effect. For example, it was just um, assignment. But if we have again, for example, print, I am very happy, because this statement has a visible effect after saving. Again, for example, on desktop, let's we have test. We should run it in the same script. There is no visible effect yet. When we do this, print I am Ghazal, we should save it, desktop test 3, for example, and then we should here run it. We can see the output here. So did you understand? I wanted to show you step by step. You have to save the script at the first step. At the second step, you should have statements with visible effects. At the third place, consider that you have to run the code, from this header. So at the first stage, please consider that as the code which you wrote has a visible effect. For example, print function. At the second stage, please ensure that you have saved it. And in the third place, please don't forget to run it from this header. So you can see the output here in Python shell. In a script mode, if we want to see this effect, we must use the print function. For example, for having a visible effect, a visible output. As you can see here, pressing F5 also have the same effect of choosing a run module from the run header here. Okay, I think in this video we reviewed simple examples. In future videos, we will discuss programming in Python more professionally. Stay tuned. Have a nice time.